The United States and the European Union have reached a crucial new trade agreement, ending months of escalating tension over trade imbalances and economic policy. The U.S. administration, led by President Trump, argued that previous trade arrangements were unfair, pointing to a large trade deficit with Europe that they said cost American jobs. The EU, a bloc of 27 nations, initially resisted, believing World Trade Organization rules were fair. But the threat of a trade war and looming U.S. tariffs forced both sides to negotiate. A global trade conflict between these economic giants would have had devastating consequences worldwide. Leaders recognized that compromise was essential to maintain economic stability and protect jobs. The U.S. prepared to impose sweeping new tariffs on European goods, sending shockwaves through industries from agriculture to manufacturing. Companies braced for higher costs and uncertainty, increasing pressure for a resolution. Ultimately, both sides shared a simple goal: economic stability. A prolonged conflict would have meant higher prices for consumers, unpredictable costs for companies, and disrupted supply chains. This deal pulls both sides back from the brink, acknowledging that cooperation is more beneficial than conflict. It's a step toward rewriting trade rules in a way both sides can accept, even if it required tough concessions. The agreement marks a turning point, aiming to restore predictability and prosperity to transatlantic trade. The most dramatic outcome of the new US-EU trade agreement was the prevention of a massive 30% tariff on European goods. The US had planned to impose this tax on August 1, 2025, threatening to make European products far more expensive for Americans. Such a tariff would have raised costs for businesses and consumers, risking inflation and job losses. Instead, the deal sets a 15% tariff on many, but not all European products, half the original threat. This compromise allows the U.S. to claim it protected American interests, while giving European producers a more manageable cost structure. The reduction from 30% to 15% was a classic negotiation tactic, using the threat as leverage to force EU concessions. Both sides can claim partial victory. The U.S. gets new taxes on imports. The EU avoids the worst-case scenario. The agreement de-escalates tensions and creates a more stable, if pricier, trading relationship. Business communities on both sides breathed a sigh of relief, pulled back from the edge of a deeper conflict. The deal is a textbook example of high-stakes economic diplomacy. The new trade agreement doesn't apply a blanket tariff. It's targeted. The 15% tariff hits specific goods at the heart of past disputes: luxury cars from Germany, fine wines and cheeses from France and Italy, and high-end fashion. American consumers will see these items become more expensive. But key sectors are exempt. No new tariffs on commercial aircraft or aircraft parts, protecting companies like Boeing and Airbus and their suppliers. Certain chemicals and pharmaceuticals are also spared, recognizing their importance to manufacturing and public health. The strategy is clear: pressure select European industries without harming critical U.S. sectors. By excluding deeply integrated industries like aerospace, the deal avoids raising costs for American manufacturers. This selective approach is a hallmark of modern trade negotiations, allowing governments to target pressure while minimizing collateral damage. For consumers and businesses, the impact depends on what they buy or sell. Some will feel the pinch, others won't. Understanding these details is key to grasping the real-world effects of the agreement. The fine print shapes who wins and who pays more. Beyond tariffs, the deal includes major European commitments to buy American and invest in the U.S. European companies have pledged to purchase $750 billion in American energy goods over several years. A huge win for U.S. oil, gas, and technology producers. This helps reduce the U.S. trade deficit and gives Europe a more reliable energy source, boosting its energy security. Additionally, European firms will invest $600 billion directly into the U.S., building factories, research centers, and expanding operations. This foreign investment creates high-quality, long-term jobs for American workers and strengthens local economies. When a European automaker builds a plant in the U.S., it brings capital, technology, and employment. These financial commitments were crucial to sealing the deal, offering the U.S. more than just tariff concessions. The negotiation shifted from confrontation to mutual investment and shared prosperity. For the U.S. administration, these pledges are proof that tough negotiating paid off, delivering export sales and job creation. Europe's commitments transform the deal from a trade fight into a partnership for growth. Both sides gain. The U.S. gets investment and sales, Europe secures energy and market access. This is a new model for resolving trade disputes. It's not just about taxes, it's about building economic ties. To understand the deal, you need to know what a tariff is: a tax on imported goods. When a product arrives from Europe, the U.S. government charges the importer a percentage of its value, now 15% for many goods. This tax is usually passed on to consumers, making foreign products more expensive. For example, a $10 bottle of French wine might cost $16.50 after tariffs and markups, making California wine more competitive. Tariffs are meant to encourage buying American, but they also raise costs for businesses using imported parts. A U.S. furniture maker using Italian leather now faces higher costs, forcing tough choices: raise prices, cut profits, or find new suppliers. While tariffs can protect domestic industries, critics say they act as a tax on consumers and can spark retaliation, leading to trade wars. The decision to impose tariffs is a balancing act to protect jobs, but risk higher prices and global conflict. The new US-EU deal is a real-world example of this trade-off. Tariffs are powerful tools, but they come with costs. Understanding how they work helps explain why this agreement matters. It's not just about politics, it's about your wallet. Every tariff decision shapes what you pay and what businesses can sell. That's why trade deals are so contentious. The US-EU trade deal stands out from other recent agreements. Unlike deals with Japan or Vietnam, which focused on agriculture or managing rapid import growth, the EU deal is broader, covering luxury goods, cars, energy, and investment. With Japan, the U.S. pushed for more access for American farmers. With Vietnam, the focus was on textiles and labor standards. The EU agreement is between two economic equals, aiming to rebalance a mature, integrated relationship. In contrast, the U.S.-China trade conflict centers on intellectual property theft and state subsidies, with tariffs as part of a broader confrontation. The EU deal is about adjusting terms between allies, not forcing fundamental changes. It's a negotiation, not a standoff. This approach could shape future U.S. trade policy. The U.S.-EU trade relationship is massive and complex, with billions in goods and services crossing the Atlantic daily. Americans buy everything from German cars and French wine to Italian fashion and Swiss pharmaceuticals. The EU is also a huge market for American exports, especially aircraft, advanced machinery, software, and increasingly, energy. U.S. agricultural products like soybeans and almonds head to Europe, while specialized foods and chemicals come the other way. This web of exchange means both economies are deeply connected. A change in trade rules like the new 15% tariff ripples through many sectors, affecting prices and business decisions. What you buy and what companies sell is shaped by these agreements. The new deal will be felt in everything from car showrooms to grocery aisles. Transatlantic trade touches us all. The new trade deal will hit consumers and businesses in different ways. For shoppers, expect higher prices on European goods like cars, wine, and cheese as the 15% tariff takes effect. For businesses, the impact depends. Importers face higher costs, while U.S. competitors may gain an edge. American wineries and automakers could see a boost, while companies relying on European parts will pay more. Europe's pledge to buy $750 billion in U.S. energy and invest $600 billion in American factories will create jobs and spur growth. But firms using European components must decide: absorb the cost, raise prices, or find new suppliers. The deal creates winners and losers. Some industries benefit, others face new challenges. It's a shakeup that will ripple through the economy. Your wallet and the business landscape will feel the effects. Trade policy isn't abstract, it's personal. This agreement is just the start of a new era in US-EU trade. It averted a damaging trade war and set a new, costlier framework for commerce. Businesses must now adapt to the 15% tariff, rethinking costs and supply chains. The real test will be Europe's follow-through on its massive investment and purchasing promises. If these commitments turn into real contracts and jobs, the deal will be seen as a success. This model, combining tariffs with investment, could influence future U.S. trade talks. But whether it leads to lasting balance or new disputes remains to be seen. Ongoing dialogue and cooperation will be essential. The world is watching as the health of this relationship shapes the global economy. The stakes couldn't be higher.